Good evening, folks. The meeting is called to order. It's 5 o'clock. If you could please stand to say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any items too late for the agenda?
You have an item too late for the agenda. We have a, Randy has a resolution for the 2023 supplementary budget adjustment. I did say that. Oh.
Would that go under new business?
Yes. So, there'll need to be a motion to put that. Okay.
Can I?
So moved.
We,
You have to just wait.
We have to.
Okay, yeah,
Is it on the sheet?
yes.
I move to amend the agenda for July 17th, 2024, regular meeting of the Pikes Library District Board of Trustees to add the resolution for 2023 supplementary budget adjustments as item number 2 under new business.
Second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. So we will have the resolution under new business. Public comment. Do we have public comment tonight?
We do have public comment, and so to try and get through everybody, we're gonna do 6 in the room and then 6 virtual, and we will alternate back and forth.
And we welcome everyone to the monthly meeting of the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees. Before we begin with public comment, I would like to let everyone know no decisions will be made at this meeting, nor will we have any discussions about the findings in the preliminary facilities master plan report that was presented during the June board meeting. The board will hold all discussions about any course of action until the final report is received. And that's going to be a while yet, in several months. As is customary, the public is welcome to present their testimony, their concern on any topic during the public comment session. Please note that we intend to hold everyone to the 3-minute time limit per person, so that we may hear everyone who would like to make a comment. This is your meeting, so we want to hear what you have to say, but we have to adhere to the 3-minute timing. And Tammy is going to hold that for you. She will let you know when it's time. Okay? Thank you. So should we call our first?
The first is Brandy Henderson, and if you will come up and stand in the middle of the table, please, so it'll be recorded on the mic.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Brandy Henderson, and we live in the Rockrimmon area. I know you're not discussing it tonight, but when you guys do, as we may not be able to make another meeting, I just want to encourage you guys to choose option 2 or 3. Rockrimmon Library serves thousands of patrons that would use the library with all of its resources, much less if we had to drive across I-25 or go down to whole Colorado City. We are blessed to live within walking distance of it, and I have boys that went to all of the children's things there, and now that they are older, they bike there as they endeavor to check out every graphic novel that the library owns. Fortunately, they also check out other books. Wonderful books, and having a neighborhood library that they can bike to independently really increases their confidence and their responsibility. And I just don't want that be taken away from thousands of kids that are so blessed to have a library in their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rubel Henderson.
Hello, my name is Rubel Henderson. I'm going to keep this relatively short because there are other people that have a lot of data behind what they are going to be presenting. But I'm also here to support the concept of keeping the Rockrimmon Library. So I also am encouraging us at some point when the decisions are made to consider option 2 or 3 in that. My wife, Brandy, just came up and spoke. And as she mentioned, we have 4 young boys. and they spend an exorbitant amount of time in the library. And we are blessed. One of our children literally will go there 3 and 4 times a day. Sometimes he'll come home, he'll get 8 books, he'll come home, he'll consume them, he'll say, I'm going to the library, and he'll go back again like 3 and 4 times a day. It's incredible. But the thing is, Rockrimmon is a really wonderful neighborhood that houses a lot of schools and a lot of businesses, local businesses within that Northwest area. And the library is one of the heartbeats of that neighborhood. It really is. And I just want to say thank you guys so much to your service and the services that you provide the public. Public library is an incredible resource, and we just want to continue to be able to bless the Rockrimmon neighborhood with all the amazing services that the library provides. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aiden Henderson.
Hello, my name is Aiden Henderson. I live in the Rockrimmon area. My 3 brothers and I walk or ride our bikes to the library at least 2 or 3 times a week. I enjoy the Rockrimmon Library because it is in an area where many people live, and I know that many people go to it. The next closest library is 21C. It is too far to bike. Plus, with summer plans, we would probably go 2 times a month. Thank you for your time.
Levi Henderson.
Levi's playing in the library.
I will add into another list. Maureen Bridges.
My name is Maureen Bridges, and I'm a member, I live in the Rockrimmon area with the Golden Hills HOA Association. We're 304 homes, and I go to the library often. There are 3 schools in the area, Eagle View, Foothills, and Rockrimmon, and I see students coming from the middle school down to the library. The location is fabulous for supporting our children, the older people, and all people, and the location that we have, just all the businesses there. We do multiple tasks at one time. So the location is awesome, and it's difficult to replace that location. Perhaps you can get that location at a cheaper price. Maybe something else can be worked, or maybe we in the community can help you. We have a large tax base all over in the area that supports that, and there's nothing. You need to help a large tax-based community, and we love the Rockrimmon Library and appreciate it so very much. So we hope we keep it at its location. And I don't know if that's a choice, but we really would like that. So thank you.
Alan Goins.
I am also here to speak on behalf of trying to keep the Rockrimmon Library at its location. So as a senior, we relish the opportunity to have a public library close and within walking distance. As you may know, Rockrimmon, along with Mountain Shadows, Big Valley, and Peregrine communities, do not have readily available bus service. So going to another location will be difficult for many of us seniors. Having a library within our communities allows us the readily available access, local gatherings, and neighborhood meetings. And this is something that we would like to keep. It's a strength within our community. And the current location also serves as a latchkey location for after-school children needing a place to go. And this was actually pointed out to me by one of the little girls who's a middle school student that lives next door to me. Removing Rockrimmon will have a significant adverse impact to our community. As a former strategic facilities planner and manager with Colorado Springs Utilities, I understand the need to own a facility as opposed to leasing one. However, I would ask that you explore other alternatives to keep the library at or near the Rockrimmon community. As an example, there is a church across the street that owns and operates a 3-acre parcel. Perhaps good consideration could be given to explore a partnership with use of that land. As a final comment, we have a fully developed community that is generating considerable tax base to support a library. I find it hard to believe that there are not adequate funds from this area to maintain a library location. If some of our funds are going to subsidize other locations or the building of new libraries, then this action needs to be reevaluated. such that new development is paying their fair share. I might also add that many of us seniors are not fully in the digital world yet. So if you're relying on digital access, we still like a location, we still like face-to-face contact and open books. Thank you.
Cindy Speaker.
Hi, my name is Cindy Speaker. I'm relatively new to the Rock Rimmon area. We just moved in about 2 years ago, and actually we chose our location in part because of where the library was located. The fact that it's a neighborhood library, it's walkability. For me, as somebody who's not quite retired, but maybe retired shortly, that was really important to me to have a neighborhood library, not someplace we needed to drive or take a bus to, but actual access to the library. I go there frequently, seeing school children there, given the 3 local schools that are in the walking area to it is really important. I understand that it's one of the 3 leased facilities of the district. I understand the budgetary issues there, but it's critical to the heart of our neighborhood. And I think that's really important. If we're below the state average for supporting our libraries, I think that's a bigger issue for the district to consider in terms of actually putting on a ballot to raise the per capita charges. I know people don't want to hear about raising, right? But if libraries are important, they're not just important for us as individuals, but for our communities, for our democracy, especially in this day and age. So I would urge you to really reconsider closing any of this libraries, especially around.
Thank you.
And now I'm gonna turn it over to Becca and Abby to do the next 6 virtual for the first.
Currently, we have 2 virtual, first up, Shelley Roller.
Hi, yes, ma'am. Can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
Great. Thank you so much. I am Shelley Roars. I am the spokesperson for the League of Women Voters of the Pikes Peak region. Apologize, I could not be there in person, but it fills my soul to see a full room there today. So thank you for listening. These 2 libraries are important, not just to the League of Women Voters, but they're vital to our communities. These are neighborhood libraries. I don't consider them the city libraries. They're in a neighborhood. And for us, as mentioned before, these are free locations that we use, that the League uses a lot for our voter education events, free film screenings with Latina Equity Foundation, and selfishly, our League events. We just held our annual meeting at one of these libraries that you're talking about closing. You cite inflationary costs as well as the report cites inflationary costs as one of the issues in weighing possibly your decision. And again, as someone just mentioned, no one likes to hear about more taxes. So if a ballot initiative is recommended, I encourage all of us that are in the room here on Zoom to obviously not just vote, we want you to vote, but to engage and get vote efforts to support that ballot initiative. It is not just about saying yes, it's about actually getting 10 other people to vote yes, because it's very hard to get people to vote yes for more taxes. So I would encourage that, and to make sure that we don't lose these libraries. And to the Board of Trustees, thank you for what you do. It is a very difficult job to make a decision like you're about to make based off of a report and a plan, a master plan. But I am going to encourage you to listen to your community members that are here today that showed the clock after work, some of us working full-time jobs, and to please, I haven't heard anyone negative that says, yes, I am for this. Please close these libraries. So if you have 10 to 20 of us for it, I hope that you would listen and listen to your community members. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Next up, Representative Steph Beadhill.
Hey, everyone. Thank you. Can you hear, everybody can hear me okay? I hope. Okay. Representative Steph Vigil, I represent Central Colorado Springs. And I'm here today to speak in support of my community's library and all of my constituents and neighbors who make full use of Ruth Holly, understanding that this board is entertaining a path forward that might include closing that branch. Ruth Holly is the only library branch physically in my district. I noticed something on the agenda for this meeting, the mission statement for Pikes Peak Library District, which I hadn't seen anywhere in a while. It's to cultivate spaces for belonging, personal growth, and strong communities. This is the description that this library district gives to itself. And since I'm such a big believer in respecting how someone identifies, I'm going to go with that. Our public libraries are among the few remaining spaces that we have where a body can exist without having to buy something. And where our worthiness is measured in engagement and connection rather than profitability, and everyone is truly welcome. So besides the books and movies, I want to talk a bit about what else is at Ruth Holly and what is on the line as far as resources for our community to cultivate belonging and personal growth and make us stronger. The computer lab has, I think it's about 15 desktop computers. I heard someone else mentioning this. Someone who's on the other side of the digital divide could lose access to places to check their email, do schoolwork, look for a job, apply for assistance programs, and so much more. If that branch closes, where do they go for that? I was looking at the calendar for the month of July in the community room. We have children's story hour, toddler playtime, bilingual career navigator hours, book clubs, crafts. Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging holds regular events there. It's a good resource for families that homeschool. Where do all of these events go? Where do we hold them if our library branch closes? I think the proposal that we're looking at in option one, it was on your report, is going to be too little too late for a system that, according to that report, has fallen well below the state average for investment in library services. And what's worse, I find it very hard to hear as an urban legislator that we're talking again about gutting the urban core of our region so that we can go to the voters, ask for funds, and then open new branches even farther out. It just strikes me as yet another example of some of the leadership in this region wanting to leapfrog over the established part of town in favor of the short-term rewards that we get from suburban sprawl. And it's gutting our capacity for the infill and community investment that we actually need. And I really think it contributes to an unsustainable situation that sociologist Matthew Desmond called private opulence and public squalor. I know that my remarks as a representative for Central Colorado Springs might not have any impact on the membership of this board. You're there for your own reasons, but I really needed to be on the record somehow or another speaking up for my constituency and this incredible resource that's so critical for our community. So I'm going to respectfully ask that you do what you need to do to make sure that we are not closing any branches and that we keep Ruth Holly open. Thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Levi Henderson.
Uh-oh.
He said he's too shy.
Okay.
But he is reading a book right now.
I just,
That's great.
Jim Lehman.
My name is Jim Lehman, and I have to confess, when I signed my name indicating I'm going to speak in front of you, I had no idea what I would hear tonight. And I have been incredibly impressed, especially by this family here, talking about the importance of the library in the Rock Rimmon area for their children. The Rock Rimmon Library in our community is a community library. And my understanding of what the board would do if it were to close is to ask us to go over where all the box stores are off of Academy, which I think is the closest one to where we are. That is a far cry from what we have. And so I would urge you to consider, and as a board, I would imagine it's not very difficult to say, here we are in Colorado Springs, and yet we seem to have an allocation to libraries that is below the Colorado average. That's not something to be proud of. And as a board, you should be actively working to raise that amount. And if that means raising it to an amount that keeps the libraries that have been mentioned as being on the block for closing, I would strongly urge you to move in that direction as opposed to closing. Thank you.
Ginny Springmeyer.
Hi, I'm Jenny Springmeyer, and I'm one of the seniors from the Rock Rimmon area. We've been there, the Necker household, my husband Norbert Necker is here with me, and we've been here for 50 years, partly in the Golden Hills, the last 30 years in Golden Hills. I'm here just to advocate for the importance of the Rock Rimmon Library. It is a centerpiece of the community. Everyone comes there, different ages, different needs, different reasons, and different outcomes, always successful. It is such a mainstay that I can't imagine it not being there. And it's a service to our community that it stay. I appreciate that we're able to come and speak before you and let you know how important it is to this huge group that happened to come today. I do thank you for your consideration.
Elizabeth Nosker.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Nosker. I'm here representing Girl Scout Troop 45244. We currently meet bi-weekly at the Ruth Holly Library. My Girl Scout troop comes from all areas of the city. The Ruth Holly Library is a central location for my troop to meet. I'm here to request that the board reevaluate the options presented by the consultant. The Ruth Holly Library services an area of Colorado Springs that does not have very many options for easy access to other libraries or library services. In very recent history, adjacent to the Ruth Holly Library, the Walmart was built to avoid a food desert in the area. Removing this library would create a desert of another sort. Besides access to books, computers, and meeting rooms, this library, like all libraries, is a haven for the community. On a personal note, this library makes for a free, available location for my troop to meet, for the parents of my troop to access resources while waiting for their Girl Scout, and for my Girl Scouts' younger siblings to play in a safe location. My Girl Scouts are a diverse group of various ethnicities, various socioeconomic groups, and they encompass a lot of other groups within our community as well. We all feel welcome at the library. We would struggle to find another meeting location. Other options need to be evaluated to avoid library closures or raising the per capita costs to nearly $200. I implore the library, I will echo what this gentleman said, find a different way, charge more taxes in the region that you want to build your libraries at, but removing libraries is not an option. Thank you.
Jacob Ward.
Hi. Hey. I'm Jacob Ward, as y'all know. I'm the president of our workers union here at Pikes Peak Library Workers United. And I know y'all have to make tough decisions at least monthly. And so we ask that the board consider other options for funding so that we don't have to resort to the closure of any of our branches. We have maintained a balanced budget this year so far without closing any branches. And we ask that any new decisions made don't cut programming, public services, don't cut staff pay or reduce raises, keep staff positions filled so that we aren't stretched any thinner. And although we are severely underfunded, the board does have multiple options that will help keep our libraries functioning and increase funding. So we can seek to de-Bruce our locality or pursue a mill levy increase. Again, taxes, I mean, who really likes them, but we are a special tax district. And both of these options require the approval of voters, but the board and us workers have connections throughout the entire community, all of the smaller communities that each branch shares. So you can seek to collaborate with our churches, community organizations, our charities, the Friends of the Library, the Pikes Peak Library District Foundation, and our workers union here to put time and effort and labor into pursuing that these votes pass. Yeah, all of those resources cost nothing as far as anyone in here. It doesn't take anything to talk to a neighbor about voting. So many of these groups, I read that. We need to keep these branches open and we need to prevent any more cuts to the public services, and our community and workers will help pursue funding if you collaborate with us all. Thank you.
Jasmine Marchman.
Not a big fan of public speaking, so I'll try to enunciate. I had some stuff jotted down that I wanted to speak about, but I feel like a lot of people have said that more eloquently than I can. So there's two things I haven't really heard that I really feel like we need to part of the discussion as to why we need to keep our libraries open. And those would be that our community is expanding rapidly. We have more and more people coming here, removing resources that are already so underfunded and so unlimited just does not make sense. We should be looking at options to keep our libraries and ensuring that our growing community has more. And then the other big part here is that as a nation, we are facing a literacy crisis. It is a huge deal. It is all over the news. Every teacher, every school district in this entire country can talk about how important it is that our youth has access to free spaces and reading materials so that we can combat this literary crisis. And this community should not be doing anything that would exaggerate that. It should be looking at ways to combat that. And that means ensuring that our libraries, especially in vulnerable communities like Ruth Holly, are open, are fully functioning, and service all of our community. Thanks.
Becca, do you have any online ones?
Not currently.
Okay, we'll keep going. Raise your hand and let me know. Okay. Bruce Hamilton.
Bruce Hamilton. I thought I could give you my opinion in 6 words, but I have to preface it with this. Oftentimes I get an email that says, do you approve of Colorado Springs libraries? And I always say yes. And the last one I got 2 days ago, I emailed them back and I said, I can't answer that until I go to this meeting. So my message that I was going to give you without this long prologue was 6 words. Don't you dare close any libraries. Thank you.
Stephanie Redfield.
Good evening. So I go with my 3 young boys every week and we get a stack of library books, probably twice this big. I just happened to get these here since I was here. But I, like the Hendersons, rely on this library. We moved to Golden Hills almost 2 years ago, and the sense of community that we have in Rockrimmon was so much greater than the other area of town that I moved from. And I can't help but think it's partially due to this library. And I mean, there are so many people here that are in support of our local library, and in a culture that is decentralizing and decommunitizing, if that's even a word, but it's this social distancing that we're experiencing. And we should do everything to fight back that tide. We need to keep these local libraries in place so that we can have this sense of community that we're losing in a lot of other areas of our state and of our city. So I just implore you to vote against that option 1. And I would support option 2 and 3. Obviously, no one wants to raise taxes, but I personally would be happy to pay that relatively small increase to keep that library open. Thanks.
Graham Swartzo.
Hello, I realize at this point, there's probably not a lot left I can say that hasn't been said better, but I was born and raised in the Mountain Shadows area, not far from Rock Rimmon. And actually, I believe it was another commenter mentioned that if this closed, 21C would likely be the next destination for a lot of people. For about 2 years, I actually commuted to there, or not far from there, for work. 6 a.m. on a Sunday, driving up from Fillmore, Garden of the Gods to that area of town is a substantial time investment. If you are a parent trying to provide those services to children, that, especially if you have a full-time job, that kind of extra commute would be onerous. And in addition, this has been tough times for a lot of people. Access to proper productivity hardware like the computer labs is not getting any easier. Access to books is not getting any easier. Access to third spaces that people can actually stay in for periods of time is not getting any easier. This right now, more than I won't say ever, but for a long time, this is when we need public services like that. And I believe that's just about all I have.
Alex Summers.
Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a Colorado Springs resident and a native. I've been here all my life. I have come to the library for various things throughout my life, and let me be clear and just say it. I am fully against the shutting down of any of the already too few PPLD branches we have here. Libraries offer an incredibly important lifeline to American citizens in so many ways, citizens of Colorado Springs. It's very important in such an absurd time of religious zealotry and conservative overreach into people's personal lives. It is incredibly important in a time where conservatives are trying to ban, among many other things, books. To erase and reinvent history because actual American history is CRT and woke liberal propaganda. These ridiculous concepts come from the same people who claim to be for less government overreach. Every kind of book is important in its own right for different reasons. While books are currently being banned for absurd reasons in schools, people can still access these books here at a library. I want everyone in the future to access these if they so choose. I want everyone who might not otherwise have access to a computer or a printer to have that resource for the endless uses and help they can bring. It's my understanding that the reason we're here today is because the people responsible for these incredibly important community resources are thinking of shutting down multiple locations. It's also my understanding that libraries are funded primarily by federal money, government grants, and also local municipality funds. Well, here I am, part of the local municipality and a participant in the federal tax system. I'm telling you that I 100% support the continued funding of all or even more Pikes Peak Library District locations here in Colorado Springs. Get a ballot measure and get the second or third option on the ballot for people. I think given what our community has told you thus far and the ramifications no libraries will have for the country as a whole is a very strong issue people will support. I full well understand that taxes aren't particularly popular, but tell our elected officials to take some of the ridiculously overtaxed pot money or reallocate funds we supposedly have to fix these ridiculous potholes in the roads that never actually get dealt with. Apply for more grants. If you need assistance, I will even petition or manage petitioning teams for you. I have experience with that. To get this on the ballot, you have my number and my name now. Do whatever you need to do as leaders and workers in this incredibly important program and make sure Pikes Peak Library Districts stay funded, open, and functional. Thanks for your time.
Kathleen Walker.
Hi. Well, I lived on the west side when I was young and used that library. I raised my kids and still live and use the Rockroom Library. And I had 4 avid readers because I was a stay-at-home mom and could not afford to go buy books at Chinook at the amount that they read at. So you're raising their future taxpayers who value the library. At Ruth Holly, you have kids who don't have access to books probably at all, learning to love to read. I have to ask you, how much money did you spend on lowering bookcases and trying to make this library a safer place? Because the west side is at the intractable, sad problem of homeless. All through Old Colorado City, it didn't used to be there. Downtown, rent out half this place if you don't have the traffic here that you used to. This was the premier place to bring a child to see the child's library here when my kids were growing up. Better than any other place, magical for them. It's no longer the case. If you have to clean up bathrooms every so often and spend a lot of money because of the meth problems in them, rent out half this place. Old Colorado City, if the only people are using it, they're homeless, rent out that. Don't close the places where people are still bringing children safely, are still using it on a community basis. Homeless is not your mandate. It's an intractable problem, and there's lots of other better organizations trying to figure it out. So don't close the libraries that are successful in raising your next taxpayers and making children literate. Do something about the problem down here. I don't know what you spent to have to lower all those cases, but that was not money you should have spent.
Mar Pierre.
Hello, everyone. I have called Ruth Holly my home library for the past 5 years. When I moved into this area, it was quite a strange and unfamiliar place to me. Ruth Holly was a sanctuary. It was an area where I could learn how to be a member of this community and simply to exist without having to buy something. Library resources helped me prepare for the greatest change in my life, having children. And now that my kids have been here, I can say Ruth Holly Library has inculcated in them a love of reading. They ask for stories by name. And as someone who has limited transportation access, that simply would not have been possible if I did not have a library right in my own neighborhood. Not to mention, frankly, we are a poor family. I cannot afford to buy quite so many books as they are interested in. Okay, my neighborhood is hurting. I've watched things deteriorate in the past few years. I've watched the social bonds fray as everyone becomes a little bit more inward drawn, a little bit colder, a little bit meaner. A library is a social glue, offering so many important services, not only to my unhoused neighbors, but to bored teenagers, to book lovers, and I can testify, even toddlers. We need that social glue now more than ever. We should not be considering closing a library, reducing service at libraries, or harming the library workers who make these magical places possible. And I really do mean, in a sense, magical, because a library isn't like anywhere else. Thank you.
Tim O'Brien.
Well, thank you. My name is Tim O'Brien. I appreciate very much the opportunity to be here and speak on this important position here. But first, I'd like to go back 20 years and thank all those administrators. I'll call them administrators, but specialist technicians that have supported my kids at the schools, or sorry, at the libraries, and in particular Rock Ribbon Library. You know, as a retired B11 school administrator, I was involved in many school closure activities and and advocating or analyzing information for the school boards, and then, of course, making decisions on behalf of communities. And one of the things that I found most difficult is maintaining your focus on schools, much like libraries, where you would say it's all for the kids. And I believe that, but it's not just for the kids. It is for the kids, their parents, their grandparents, and the community members. And I'll include businesses in that regard. But what I really wanted to do is advocate this resource availability issue that I think a few people have talked about. You have to have that these days. You can go online and you can have a Nook and you can access library books. That's wonderful. Some of us old timers are doing that now. But that face-to-face in the library community, and I'll say the library community, that really the neighborhood community is extremely important, as the gentleman before me said. We need to maintain that personal touch. And that personal touch is a community touch. Rock Rimmon Library has been very important for our family and for my 6 grandkids who, are more now involved, as I was and my kids were. So when you look forward to, or I should say not look forward, but having to make this decision, I know it's very difficult, much like a school closure would be. But look at it in terms of a broad community, as I know you will, I'm sure. There's one aspect I hope you think about for our Rock Rimmon location, and that is something that I've seen over the last 20 years, says how important it is as a safe place for a couple of schools nearby, in particular Eagle, or middle school, where in the winter months, I've seen a number of young, kids walking down to the library, and they use that as a safe place because I've seen those same people when I'm in there reading the Wall Street Journal. And I've always been, taken back that we have a place, it's made available for them. And thank goodness, because a lot of those young students wouldn't have a place, and I'll call it a safe place these days. And if they didn't have our Rock Rimmon Library. Thank you.
Lori Black.
Oh. Okay, ditto.
I'm not, that's a cop out. I kind of wrote down a few things. I use the library with Rock Rimmon Library, living in Mountain Shadows with my children who are grown now, but it's like the place to go, kind of fun social stuff. And the Rock Rimmon Library is always packed. There's so many people there. My husband and I today rode our bikes down there and we took a yoga class, and our yoga instructor was totally unaware that the library might close. She was like, oh, what are we gonna do? I was like, it's not gonna happen right away. If it happens, and we won't let it happen. But it's kind of like that library has become like where I have my social life. I go to the book club there. I've met people that I brought today. We did a coffee and conversation when they had that at the library, which we still do weekly, but it's not library sponsored anymore. But it's just, I can't imagine not having that library. It's just community there. So do not close it. I'm like the other gentleman, don't close the library.
Becca, you have somebody online?
Yes, Genevieve Gustafson.
Hi, my name is Genevieve Gustafson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to speak out and let you know that I absolutely am opposed to closing the Rock Rimmon Library. I've lived in the Mountain Shadows area for a long time, well over 30 years. And my family, my sons have used that library over the years. My mother's used that library. We recently had a community meeting at the meeting room, and that location is so nice because it's central. It's not in Rock Rimmon at one end or in Mountain Shadows at another end. There are no bus services, as another gentleman so aptly noted. And it's not just kids, it's people of all ages. In my family, neither one of my sons have internet today. I was just telling them, you can go and access this here. And I know that some of my mom's friends as well would use that library to access the internet and check their mail and books and other items. I think it's just really super important because this is 80919. None of these people, or the vast majority, are not going to be able to get over to Old Colorado City without gas, without significant traffic and time constraints. So this whole area, that Rock Rimmon Library serves, and it serves it well. Your librarians there are just fantastic people. Again, please do not close this to open up another library in another part of town. We need this library, ideally in this location, but if there is another location that can be a permanent location, I would definitely be in support of that. Thank you so very much. Did I hit the 3 minutes? Can I keep talking?
Mary Bowden.
I'm Mickey Bowden, and I thank you all for being open to receiving public comment, and thank the community for showing up. I'm weighing in personally for keeping the Rock Rimmon Library open, and professionally as a social worker for all branches. What Penrose Public Library does well is offer equity, and they offer equity through access. You do that very, very well, providing a safe space for young people and old people. As far as the Rock Rimmon Library goes, it's accessible for my elderly parents. And because there is no public transportation, I certainly don't want to see my parents driving across town. That's a difficulty for them and a hardship. So in speaking on behalf of senior citizens, I think it's really important to keep those branches open. For speaking on behalf of young children, having a safe space to go. For those that are experiencing poverty, it gives them access to resources that they would not have available at any point. And, you know, for any of a marginalized community, whether it's a person of color, LGBT, this provides a safe space and access to resources they wouldn't normally get. So thank you for providing it now, and please consider keeping these branches open so that people have continued access. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Martin.
Alrighty, my name is Matt Martin. I am also a member of the Rock Rimmon and Golden Hills community. I have 2 small children. My 4-year-old just got his library card like 3 weeks ago. He wants to read so bad. We're reading and he's recognizing some words and, you know, starting me up and like he wants it, you know, and like taking the library away is really going to put a damper on that. You know, my 7-year-old, it's right next to a mathnasium. There's times where I'll take him there and then I can go and I can get work done. And it's always amazed me how populated the Rock Rimmon Library is every time I go in there. It's not sitting empty. It's being used by a lot of people and a lot of diverse people. You know, I see a ton of, you know, this is right after school gets out, you know, so a lot of the Evil View kids coming by, you know, see old people and toddlers and the full range. And it's also just, libraries are such an important resource as that social glue that somebody brought up earlier, right? It's important to have in-person interactions with people. We're not just checking out your groceries or whatever you're buying at Best Buy, you know, like it's a place where you can actually have a community, and that's something that we need a lot of. And then like the librarian staff there is phenomenal. Like they've helped me so many times find exactly what I need. You know, and they do a great job of keeping things on the shelves that some people probably don't want there, but you need to have access to knowledge, right? Just because a book's on the shelf doesn't mean you have to read it. But it's a shame to not be able to because the library's gone, or because somebody tried to take that away from me. So yeah, please keep it open. I'm willing to chip in my share, you know, when ballot initiative comes around, because it is such an important community asset. Thank you.
Emily
Nozawa. It's a hard one.
Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. As a Colorado Springs native, I understand a lot of the challenges surrounding getting needed funding from taxpayers for really important services in our community. But I don't think that we should despair of hope. We have seen mill levies pass in the past, and this is important enough that I think the voters in our community would be willing to make the right choice to support our libraries. Many of the things I had planned to say have already been spoken by our wonderful community here, but I have kind of a unique perspective in that I work in a hospital setting, and I've had the very great honor of welcoming tiny humans into this world, as well as being with elderly people who are leaving. And the only other place where I've ever seen anything close to that in a community setting is the library. We have prenatal yoga, we have mommy and me classes, toddler time, there's reading sessions, there's art, STEM, engineering for middle-aged children. I particularly am here speaking on behalf of the Rockrimmon location, where we see scads of middle school kids coming and reading and spending time in a safe, healthy place. My own dear mother-in-law is currently doing an exit planning class with several members of our elderly community there. Rockrimmon serves much more than just the 3 elementary schools that were mentioned earlier.
Cannot put the burden on individuals to take long bus rides or long car rides to get to their library. This is essential for our democracy. It's glue, it's community, it's what we need. The solution cannot be to close local branches. It just can't be. And I just want to really say a shout out loudly for Ruth Hawley, because we've heard from so many people representing Rockrimmon. I think the fact that we're not hearing as much from Ruth Hawley is because it's serving a neighborhood that maybe people didn't have as many resources to get here or to log on and be there. And for that reason too, this is an equity issue. We cannot be closing local branches in communities for whom it's serving a vital need, from crib to the end. So please, please, find another solution, listen to the community. This is essential. Thank you.
Tim Young. Thank you. In addition to what has been said, I was amused that the presenters who brought you the report said that the library system was very west heavy. Because as I look at the map, if you look from 24 headed west and I-25 west, there are only two branches on the west side. And that is Ruth Holly and Rock Rimmon. The rest of them are down in central Colorado Springs and Palmer Lake, way up north. The rest is dead on the west side. So if you were to consider closing Ruth Holly and Rock Rimmon, and you take all that traffic on the west side, where are you going to put them? The branches that currently exist down in Colorado City, they're not going to be able to handle the traffic that would exist. So I think it would be a horrible idea to close Rock Rimmon and Ruth Holly. And I love what the lady before me just said, that we don't have representation from Ruth Holly because of inability to get here. And it's a very vital clue that branch needs to stay open. It is not easy in the city of Colorado Springs to get from the west to the east side. Anybody who lives on the west side knows that. So to try to put the burden on the west side to get over to an east side branch is not a good idea. So I would not like to see that. I do echo the idea that looking toward option 2 and 3 is a preferable option from the report that the men gave. I also would like to note, I haven't heard anybody say it, thank you, that Rock Rimmon is one of the busiest branches in the library system. So I think that that too is another key reason for not closing the branch. Looking for land-owned Rock Rimmon branch, I think is an excellent idea. And let's partner. Let's figure out a way to make it happen if having a lease is the wrong option. Thank you very much. Robin Lamoureux.
Hello, my name is Robin Lamoureux. I'm a volunteer and a community member here in the downtown Colorado Springs area. I want to say to start with that the majority of minors cannot drive or do not own a motor vehicle, and so rely on walking, biking, public transportation, or their parents to travel from their homes, shelters, community centers, jobs, schools, clubs, and of course, libraries. And it's not just teenagers who use these alternative forms of transportation. I myself am an adult with a disability, which can make driving difficult and potentially hazardous to myself and others. And so I've made the responsible decision to use public transportation and walking to travel from place to place for the foreseeable future. And the Ruth Holly Library, which is directly on the bus line, is a convenient and easily accessible place for non-driving members of our community to access books, do homework, use the bulletin board, make use of free legal services, use the computers to research and apply for programs which will support them in getting housing and food, and apply for jobs. And this is not the only reason that libraries are important. The library also provides people with enriching experiences and activities and allows them to meet friends, which increases morale, motivation, and provides people with a sense of normalcy and connectedness in their community. This is particularly important for younger generations who are experiencing an epidemic of loneliness and a staggering lack of places which do not require them to pay to be there. Keeping a library open and funded is a noble and worthy cause, and whether that is through an increase in taxes or reallocation in funds. Thank you.
Online, we have Fadil Lee.
Hey, thank you. My name is Fadil Lee. I don't live anywhere close to Rock Rimmon. I actually live near Dublin and Powers. But hey, I just want to say I know what it's like to be, to be a part of a board, to make decisions. I want to thank you, for those that are volunteering your time. It's no small task, it's no small feat. I just want to say that. I also want to say that when we have this conversation, if we're looking to pause, and take a look at what we did for the Penrose Library, it did not get shut down. So what happened was there was a pause, it was closed, renovations were made. So if that, I would like to maybe offer that for consideration, as opposed to outright closing a facility. And I just say that because, there are things that we should be closing down, right? Liquor stores that sell to minors, drug houses, underperforming, businesses. But I don't know, but libraries shouldn't be one of them. So there are a lot of eloquent people that went ahead of me. So I don't need a whole lot of time, but I just want to offer that for consideration. There are some things that we should be closing, but I don't think libraries should be one of them. Thank you for your listening. Thank you for your consideration.
Devin Mitchell.
Thank you all for being here today. My name's Devin. I just moved here about a year ago. I live in the Rock Rimmon area, and I've actually used the Rock Rimmon Library to kick off my small business. And I think libraries are a really important part of our community to foster a space for creativity and entrepreneurship. I also want to speak on behalf of my partner for a second. He had a severe undereducation when he was young, and I have used the library to help him gain tons of life skills and basic knowledge that he missed out on in going to school. We've had access to like free books, the computers, the printers, all types of things like that have helped improve his education, get him a better job where we can pay for our own needs and things like that. And again, it helped start up my business. So that's really given us, both as a young couple, like some freedom and like financial freedom. So that's kind of the points I wanted to touch on. Thank you.
Kat Gale.
Hello, I'm Kat Gale. First, I'd like to quote Benjamin Franklin, who said, "Libraries have improved the general conversation of America and made the common tradesmen and farmers as intelligent as most gentlemen from other countries." That's what libraries are for. They're the great equalizer. The one thing you can't take away from somebody is their knowledge and their education. So what's unique about both Rock Rimmon and Ruth Holly, they're truly hubs for the community. They're where people walk. My son spent most days after school at Eagleview at the Rock Rimmon Library. I've been to community meetings in Ruth Holly. Both of these are key because people who used them couldn't go to other places. I took an art class at Rock Rimmon. I'd say roughly a quarter of the students there were special needs. People with disabilities who cannot navigate public transportation to get all the way across town to some library that may be created on Powers. Now we have special taxation districts for everything in this town. Why can't these multi-billionaire out-of-state developers have a special taxation district, fund the libraries to sell their houses? That people in the older parts of Colorado Springs pay and pay and pay. My son went to Air Academy High School. We're over $70 million down in routine maintenance because we haven't been able to keep our school up because we've been so busy building new schools. When, oh, when are the developers and the new people going to be able to pay for what they're taking rather than taking it from us? Please don't close our libraries. People want suggestions for what we can do. Option 3 seems the best. There's a Walgreens that's just up the street from Eagleview Middle School, where an Air Academy High School student was brutally murdered. Why don't you appeal to Walgreens to close that down, donate the land, and give us a new library, and we could name it after our lost student? Thank you.
Sarah Spiller.
Board of Trustees, thank you for your time. My name is Sarah Spiller, and I'm a resident of the northwest side of Colorado Springs. My family and I frequently visit the Rockrimmon branch. Our visits span different times of the day and the week, and we consistently observe it bustling with activity. Therefore, I am disheartened to learn that the closing of the Rockrimmon branch is considered due to funding issues. I am firmly opposed to the closure of this branch or any branch. The nearest alternative to the Rockrimmon Library is 21C, which is 25 minutes away, or Old Colorado City, which is also 25 minutes away, but lacks ADA accessibility. This increased distance poses significant challenges for many patrons, potentially making library visits impractical or impossible. I have a few questions. Have there been any studies conducted to compare the usage of the Rockrimmon branch with other branches? Could a reduction in programs across branches be considered to maintain broader accessibility to public libraries for our community? I do not see this as an option rather than to close branches. Echoing off of Kat Gale, I think we could consider reaching out to Walgreens as they are closing many stores. Let's take that over. So we will no longer have a leased property, and let's dedicate that to Riley White Claw. I think that would be a great option for us. But we need to look at options, and closing is not one of them. Thank you.
Is it Mina Gassing? Or River? Okay. I almost went with that, but then I was like, oh, maybe not. I'm sorry.
You're good. Hello, everyone. My name's River Gasson. I'm a scientist, I'm an educator, and I'm someone who really loves to read. And that love for reading started very young. I grew up walking distance to a public library. And my mom could trust that myself and my younger brother could go there, and she didn't have to stress about it because we were right there, right across the street. She would give us incentives when I was a kid for me and my brother to see which of us could read the most books over the summer, and would reward us with things like going to the movies, going to Waterworld, and then we'd fight to see who could read the most books over the summer. And when I was in middle school, libraries became a safe place where me and my friends could go and hang out and talk about Team Edward versus Team Jacob, as middle school girls should. And when I was in high school, libraries were where I was able to volunteer my time to the community for the first time, before I could gain work experience. It was there. Public libraries were there for me at every stage of my life, every stage of my development. And they're a place where parents can feel safe for their kids. When you guys make your decision, I want you to ask yourself, how far do we want our kids to walk to be safe, to ride their bikes to be safe, to have to take a bus to be safe? How far away do we want safety to be from our communities? I don't want to just ask for the resources we need. We need to be demanding libraries. We need to be demanding more libraries. We need to decide what kind of a community, what kind of a world we want to have for the next generation. Option 3. Thank you.
Ben Morse.
Hello, I'm Ben Morse. I'm here speaking as a person who's not served by either of the two libraries in question directly. They're not my neighborhood libraries, but I should actually revise what I said. I'm absolutely served by them. Typically, we go here to Penrose or to OCC. My daughter, who was 5 when we moved here, is almost 11 now, and has in fact played at this library and loved this library every month for years. And it's been really important to me to live in a city where no matter where we are, we can stop by a library. There have been times when I've stopped by Rockrimmon to use a meeting room so I could just have a place to sit or make a phone call in between other parts of my day. if we're out doing errands on the east side of town, we can go to Ruth Holly and just stop in for a while. And every time we do, a lot of parents have spoken about how libraries help their kids to read. Every branch we go to, she just shoots to the stacks and just comes out with 5, 10 things. She has her own card now. I was looking at the map of the library system while people were speaking, and it looks pretty well distributed. It's kind of evenly spread across the town, but if you zoom in, there are miles between branches. And the idea that we're going to make it even less dense just seems wrong. Like, I want to live in a community that is rich with libraries, so that our children's lives can be rich with books. If anything, we should be finding ways to create more smaller outposts, you know, even if they're just the size of this corner of the room, to fill the gap between libraries, not to widen the spaces between them. So, thank you.
Jennifer Mateas.
Thank you for being here and letting all of these beautiful voices be heard. When we moved here 10 years ago, I made it a goal to take my children to every library in the district, and we did. We made it. And because I wanted them to experience the joy of that all the libraries offered. Like everyone in this room, we have checked out hundreds of books and attended many community events at all of the libraries. I live in the D20 school district where Aaron Salt is the school board president. Aaron was the single D20 school board member that refused to support the levy to increase teacher pay to give them a living wage. And many teachers cannot afford to live in the district in which they teach. It is not a coincidence that Aaron also sits on this library board and is part of this proposal to close libraries rather than fighting to increase funding. He sits on these two boards while holding a CFO position in the Woodland Park School District, making 6 figures a year. I want to understand, what is the end game of this board? Why are you continuing to watch the city grow and not fighting for our community in every way you can? Why sit on a board for a precious resource if your goal is to gut it? Power to let this pass on a ballot. Thank you.
Jesse Ostrowski.
Hi, I just want to say that we are a military family. We moved to Colorado Springs about 2 years ago. And I want to say that coming into this city, the first thing that came, I have 2 young kids. The Pikes Peak Library District has brought such a sense of community to this city. And we recently purchased a house in Rock Rimmon. And the first thing I did is I took my kids to that library. And it brings such a sense of community and pride for my kids. We walk to that library, we ride our bikes, and just to see their excitement. My son the other day said, I want the second book in this specific series. He knew where to go to get it. And just seeing that as a parent, I lit up because he's so excited to go to the library and to read. And my daughter at 4 years old is reading, so I get to see her. Sorry. I get to see her go in and just look through all the books and find something that excites her to read every day. And they get a stack of 20 books and they come home and I get to see them read for a couple hours, just flipping through the pages. And I just don't want to see that sense of community stripped from the Rock Rimmon area. I really think it brings so much to the community. And every time we go, we see so many kids there playing, and I want all the kids to have that. And I want, like other people with older children, I want them to be able to walk there after middle school and have that safe sense of community. So yeah, I don't want to lose that for our Rock Rimmon area. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Livingston.
Hello there. My name is Jeff Livingston. I'm running for State House District 15. This library and this decision doesn't necessarily affect my district specifically, but I believe that the precedent that we set in this particular decision will kind of reverberate over the state like it normally does with a lot of other decisions that have happened. I believe that could mean that we are telling the rest of the state that the public services, things that are that we have access to are not as important as what they should be. So I'm gonna tell you a quick little sidebar here. My first experience, I remember this so vividly when I first came into a library when I was a kid. I walked in and I looked around and I asked my mom, how much are these books? Like, we came in here to, you know, read these books. I'm assuming we can take some home if we pay for them. She said, these books are free so long as we pay our taxes, etc. And I was like, they're free? What? Yeah, so my children, I brought my kids to a library for the first time, and they looked around and the landscape changed a bit. There were not necessarily as many books, but there were computers sitting around the edges of the library. The first thing my kid said to me when she walked in, she said, that's a computer over there? I'm like, yeah, that's a computer over there. She's like, does it have internet? I'm like, yeah. So we get free internet and computers in here. I'm like, yes, you do. So long as you pay your taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So libraries in my family have represented more or less a way to get access to things that we would not have been able to get otherwise. Yeah, it's just one of those things that I love to see expand and grow. Libraries create lifelong memories, especially in my family's case. They represent access to tools that change the course of our futures. They change lives, they lift people up, they build strong communities, they build strong minds, and to see those facilities diminish or close or be underfunded is literally bringing to a close a chapter in our existences where we get access to things that make us better. So I want to see more libraries happen. I want to see more free internet, more free books, more access to things that people can use to lift themselves up, because that makes better communities for everyone. So, yeah.
That is the end of those who have signed up for public comment. I want to thank all of you that were courageous enough to speak up for your library, for all libraries. I know the board of directors sitting up here, the board of trustees, we all also love the libraries. Many of us took notes. As was said earlier, we are not making any decisions today. We probably aren't going to make decisions for a few months. But we hope that we can make the best decision for all our community, because that is who we represent. We represent El Paso County. So when we make a decision, it is based on the entire community. But once again, thank you for coming, and we're going to take a little break, and then we will come back to finish our meeting. Okay.
Back, can you tell us why you selected these two libraries? Given, and because I know Rockland has a high use rate. Why these two?
If you would like to go to the website, and the facilities master plan preliminary report is on the web, so you could read exactly why.
You think Rock Ribbon has more activity than here?
I can't answer that question.
That information is on the facilities master plan.
And it was not we that selected those branches. It's a consultant's recommendation.
Let's take a break.
Sorry.
Quiet ourselves for a little bit. It shouldn't take very long. Order in the court. Who said that? Okay, here we go. We're going to go to reports. Friends of the Public Library.
Okay.
Thanks,
so
Thank you, Rita.
So as one of the groups that continually gives you money so you can keep operating. Since the last meeting, It's been pretty quiet, but one of the donors for the Regional History Symposium and the Mountain of Authors. And so we did have Friends representation there, and we were giving out goodies and talking to folks about the Friends and what we do for the library. And then we always put in a plug for the library. This week, so from the 15th, Monday to Monday, we are having on the Friends web store, Christmas in July. Christmas in July. Get those books. You know, their books are 25% off. We're trying to compete with Prime, you know, Amazon Prime. I know. Books. And then we will be supporting the East Summer Adventure Party on the 26th. And we have about 80 boxes collected of children's books and young adult books that we will be selling. And, you know, I mean, they're celebrating toward the ending of summer adventure, but we make about $500, which helps to contribute to the 40,000, 50,000, 60,000 that we give the library. So we're just trying to do what we said we're always going to do, which is support you and, you know, give you as much money as we can to keep you going.
Thanks. Thank you very much. The foundation board.
I have nothing to add. Do you have any questions? Have anything to report? Take it now. Thank you.
None. Thank you. Randy, the money guy, financial report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, so obviously, from the date on here, you're aware that we're halfway through the year. And looking at the overall position we're in right now, the revenue, trying to think of the right word. This is the revenue is up by 2 million. I don't believe, you know, that's obviously not going to be that way by the end of the year. It's a timing thing on the budget and how it compared it to previous years. That's how I'm coming up with how to ratchet that. So that the number that we had for this last month was actually very consistent with last 2 years of June. So it was over $8 million. So that was a big jump, but that's more timing. And property tax is so locked in as far as what we submit for a mill levy and the revenue that goes with it. You know, they just basically go out and collect it and give it to us, and it's very consistent. So interest income from our investment again continues to come in at a high level. This is consistent with last year before that. Donations and fundraising, we're always going to see kind of a delay sometimes because they don't have their meetings but every quarter. And so we're actually going to have a foundation meeting tomorrow, and we do have things submitted that we would like to get distributions to the library on, so that'll correct that to some extent. And then the other amounts are the parking lot collections. They've been higher in previous years, but it's because of what we did here at Rockland. It's really the only place that we have parking charges. But what we did do is much easier for everyone. It's better for the patrons. It gives them a lot more time to be in the library without being saddled with a cost. I think it's like 2 hours. So that's well worth, you know, the inconvenience of what we had before, which was coin and dollar meters. Employee contributions are tracking well. Personnel expenses and operating and capital outlay. Capital outlay, I don't have the figure exactly in front of me, but we have encumbrances out there for capital, which means it's on a purchase order, it's been ordered, but it hadn't been received yet, so we haven't gotten an invoice, and so we're not that far ahead on that. It's like there's just a lot of encumbrances that still need to be cleared. Operating expenses are actually running pretty close, and personnel expenses, I think Tammy could attest to this, that is an ever-changing thing. I just worked on payroll with our payroll supervisor yesterday to get that done, and there were far more people leaving than we were hiring this last day, and it happens over and over like that. The HR I know is running ads all the time, and it's a struggle to keep. So what we basically end up with as part of that number, that variance there, is positions that we plan on filling that haven't been filled all year or not at all, and so it tends to build up a surplus on that personnel expense. So 7 million looks nice, but we won't have 7 million by the end of the year. Capital fund, as I said before, is pretty much the same as the total sheet, except of course the capital funds that we have in our self-insurance fund. So we're showing $5 million, $5.3 million favorable variance on that. All of the departments that are listed there under expenditures are running in the black. Finance, we've got a small negative. We pay some annual expenses at the front of the year that probably hasn't been totally allotted, for 6 months. So that's I think what's causing that. And then the interdepartmental, for the reason I just talked about with the vacancy, basically goes into a budget number, and I spread it over 6 months. I don't really have any other ratio on that, and so that one's actually much closer than it's been for a bit. Designated funds, that's basically the spending behind the revenue that's coming in from grants and some of the donation fundraising activity that we have, and it's actually pretty close at 50,000 minus. The next 2 pages, since I've talked so much about that, just breaks down in far more detail by the actual departments, and then like support services has 3 different active support departments under it, so you get a little bit more granular information about where the variances are at for each of those. And then of course public service, similar to support services, that's broken down to public services, which ends up flex management, Tammy's group, regional history, adult education, more district-wide programs that aren't just locked into like programming or specific branches, which of course are broken out in programming and branch admin. Capital fund, like I said, the budget's representing more what it would be for 6 months even spending, and there are encumbrances out there that are not yet received on or paid for, and I don't see us not hitting the 2 million considering some of the stuff we've got going on. Last year's number, which you'll see in a few minutes, we had expenditures about $2.4 million for capital, and so I don't know, because every year we basically end up, because our capital funds are multi-year, so they obviously can't do everything that is in the budget because you have to carry over from the, and we're always going to have that. So but based on things I'm seeing and some of the things that we've had pop up that weren't necessarily planned, I would definitely think we'd be in the 2.53 million area. And then our self-insurance fund, that's obviously our health insurance for the most part. funding on that is right where I thought it would be for the budget. And then for operating, I actually broke some expenses out that I didn't see as necessarily being personnel. But I didn't move the budget stuff because it's been running 6 months. I may do that next month. It's not unusual stuff. It's just it wasn't broken out that way in the original budget. So I kind of did something with that this last month to kind of rectify that a little bit. And I will move the budget down for that for next month. And as of right now, looking at this, it's a little hard to read this.
I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't
no.
realize it until.
No, you're fine. But basically, there's nothing new on here as of right now. There will be before the end of the year, but I haven't had any since our last one in I think it was February. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions or?
Nope. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay, public services, Tammy.
Hey, any questions before I point out a few things? All right, so one of the things I do want to specifically point out and give a shout out to collection management is in May, they had tested an option in our self-checkout to do self-checkouts, even if we were to have an internet outage or something similar. And they had tested it, figured out how that would work. And then when we did happen to have an outage, we were able to use those self-checkouts to continue doing checkouts, and they were able to do over 5,000 checkouts during that time. So
wow,
it was great timing, and thanks to them. A couple other things, programming had a busy month. They had a lot of signature events, Mountain of Authors, of course, Repair Cafe, and the homeschool curriculum swap. And then Regional History and Genealogy also had one of their signature events, and that was the symposium. So all of those were really successful. Thank you.
okay, support services, do we have any questions on any of the reports, communications, facilities, human resources, IT, safety, security? Does anybody have any questions or? None, okay. Chief Librarian Report, Tammy.
So as acting chief librarian, it's been busy, as you all know. There were several news interviews in regards to the release of the preliminary facilities master plan. I also, just to let you know, I didn't remember on the day I sent it to all of you, but I did remember the next day to be sure to send the same statement and an update to the liaisons as well, to try and keep them up to date in case they had received inquiries too. I do want to kind of touch base on something Randy had mentioned, that we've had some positions that haven't necessarily been filled in public services. But we are finding that we are struggling with candidate pools in a few of those positions. And because of that, we've had to repost several of them in order to really try and find the best fit. So that, of course, always unfortunately extends that amount of time as well too. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully we'll get everybody filled in at some time, right?
Yes, hopefully.
Board reports, governance.
No,
No,
governments did not meet.
okay.
I was sitting here going, what are we talking about?
But you have
One time.
continued asking us to fill out, did you get all the information you needed?
We got a pretty good number of responses on the board competency survey. We didn't get all members, but we got enough that we could pull data on that. So we're working on analyzing that. And then we're still working on just details, getting that nailed down for the board retreat in September as well. So we've been doing that stuff over
email primarily right now, and then maybe we'll have something to talk about next month in government, so.
And when do we post for the board positions?
That should be, I believe, in August.
August, it's coming up.
We have a schedule Jeremiah and I we're working on, so I can send that out. via
Okay.
email.
Thank you. Internal affairs? That would be me. Well, what did we do?
Aaron's not here.
You didn't meet
Oh, man, we didn't meet. Oh, yes, we did meet. Thank you. We went over the audit, with our auditor. And, one of the things that I'm sure that Randy's gonna talk about it in a little bit. We had a really nice, clean audit. So, that was wonderful to hear. They're still working out tweaks and, but it was a good audit, right?
Mhm.
That was good. Public affairs, thank you for reminding me. Duh. Public affairs.
We did meet. If you'll recall at the last board meeting, there was a presentation for a possible mural for the Penrose Library. And so it was referred to our committee to talk about. And what we realized is that we don't have any kind of policies or procedures in place, either at the board or the administrative level, to process those kinds of requests. And we discussed a lot, and we decided that it should be an administrative process and policy development task. And so we have tasked Tammy, who probably has a lot of spare time, to start that process. And then I'm sure she'll keep us all posted as we go along.
And I did call and speak to both presenters and
Right.
let them know that it would be a few months before we had anything in place. So
Thank you.
Oh,
yes,
thank you for doing that.
yes.
Do we have any liaisons online?
Doesn't look like it, no.
It doesn't look like it? Doesn't look like it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that if they were, they could have a comment. Trustee comments, any comments from the trustees for the past month, anything they want to share? You don't have anything, anyone else? I do want to say that I had attended the graduation for GED. It was awesome. And for and you did too, yes. And for the ESL population, that was awesome, awesome, awesome. And I also want to give kudos. I don't know who was there, but at the grand reopening of the museum, PPLD was well represented. And the kids love all of everything has been offered by PPLD. You know, they get excited. And I also ask everyone, if they haven't been, they need to go to the museum. There's some wonderful presentations that they have right now, and they're really good. So anybody else? Debbie, you do anything else that you?
Not that I can recall, but were you there? Did I do anything else?
I don't know. I didn't see you there, but now we go to the consent items. Were there any questions or additions or anything to the minutes? Do we accept them as written? And we don't have to vote on them, so everybody's okay. It's kind of hard because I have to.
I know, we.
We're all on the same side.
Yeah, I'm going like, does anybody have anything to say? Okay, so the minutes are accepted. We do have two decision items, and the first one is a decision on the audit. Do you need to make a little presentation on that, Randy?
Yeah. I know you're just throwing.
Yeah, you have a little something to say, I bet.
Okay, so at the end of our packet, you'll notice that you have the draft of our audited portion of our annual comprehensive financial report, otherwise known as the ACFR. I'll spend a few minutes speaking to that it's a draft and you're not seeing the complete report yet. we are still working through the management discussion analysis. It's a document that kind of merges Excel with Word document, and hope that that would be coming through the ACFR module that we have on our ERP system. It's there, but we're gonna have to spend some time with our vendor going through some issues that our consultant had with that. So he basically some while ago had to start pulling things out of that in order to put it into a Word document, which he's had from prior years. And so we'll get there. He raved about the financial schedule side of it. That part of it has been in their network of programs available since probably 2013. And the rest of it, the narrative with the schedules intermix and all that, that was an addition probably about a year and a half ago. So we didn't really know. We were hopeful that it would go through unhinged, but you know, that's nobody really knew what we were going to face, and so. But the important part of the audit, as far as the auditors have put an opinion in here. So if you flip past the table of contents and the chief librarian letter of transmittal, and I'll come back to that in a minute for just one point. Yeah, I'll tell you here in
19, is that what you're looking for?
Page 19.
Independent auditors report.
Yeah. So as you had alluded, Dora, earlier, that in the IA meeting, our auditor did talk about their opinion, which is a clean opinion, which is the best you can get. And also mentioned repeatedly that we had no audit adjustments, and that was something to be
That's amazing.
yeah, proud of, and we are. They basically have got all of our statements presented, such as, you know, the statement of net position or cash flow, the district foundation statements, our governmental fund statements, our government-wide statement, which I think most of you probably know the difference on that is the government-wide includes, it's more balance sheet with assets in it. The governmental funds don't do that. They are more in set up to deal with readily available assets and resources. So going back to the letter of transmittal, what I was going to point out on that is that we did get applied for and received the award for certification. I believe the financial reporting excellence. This is the 32nd straight year we've had that consecutive. I, of course, haven't been here that long, so that most of those years would have been something my previous boss had accomplished. We are, of course, planning to submit, once we get the rest of our documents that would need to be submitted for this to go to that Governmental Financial Officers Association for another review and application for this certificate. I'm expecting that to happen by the end of next week. So we'd have a final one, and then my plan had been that once I got that, prior to sending it anywhere, that I would send a copy of the completed to each of the board members, and of course, AON internal people, so that you do get to see the final product that, you know, we usually have by this time. So as far as our numbers and performance, we continue to have we had a strong year in that, we lived life within our budget. And I believe our governmental funds, I'm gonna talk about that one because that's basically involves what we talk about on a monthly basis. Our general fund, capital fund, and proprietary fund, which is basically accounted for slightly different than the governmental stuff. It's actually the proprietary fund. Insurance fund is kind of put together like a regular profit and loss for a statement, like for a regular business, but it gets consolidated into our other numbers. Flipping to page 31. It's kind of the second half of our statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balance for our governmental funds. Down at the bottom, it shows the net change in our fund balance for the general fund was close to $5 million. And our capital non-major fund is a minus $2,088,000. And of course, that's because we didn't have any additional funding on capital. We basically drew down what we had from previous years. So our net growth on net change in fund balance ended up being $2.8 million, $2.9 million. So we're looking at ending up at total, including our unrestricted, and unrestricted, by the way, is, if I remember right, it's about 15.1 million. Of this $20 million. So the $20 million includes all of our restrictions. Tabor restriction, we have to do that every year, 3% of our previous year spending. And then there's also dollars reserved for grants that restrict what we can spend it on, and we have to break that out. But our number will be at 2.7 million. Proprietary fund, as I mentioned, that's on page 33 and 34. First sheet's balance sheet. The next one is actually the income statement. If you remember, this is the first year, 23 is the first year where we allocated property taxes directly to that fund. And you can see that about mid-page under non-operating revenue. $3 million rounded. And so we saw a net increase in income over expense of $571,000 on top of the 823 we ended with last year. So that leaves us with a $1.3 million net position on that, which is good because I don't think we're gonna in fact, we've already heard from our insurance brokers that we probably should expect a larger increase than we had last year. So my hope is obviously that we're going to buffer some of that for the employees with that fund balance. Our overall revenue for the general fund, it's on page 30, flipping backwards a little bit. Ended up being 36.9. And of course, the non-major funds, that was basically insurance proceeds, and we got a small rebate on the turf switch out for 21C. So we ended up at 37 million, which I believe that's a high number. I mean, that's I believe that's it's the highest of one of the highest revenue numbers we've had because of the growth in this area. there is I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time in the statistical. In fact, before I go there, I will want to talk about I've mentioned the non-major governmental funds. Those are there's I believe it's Gatsby, which is generally accepted standards for accounting. I believe it's 30. Yeah. I believe it's 34. It's a standard that lists requirements for basically has calculations on it to determine if a fund is a major fund or not. And obviously the general fund would be, that's our operating fund. But the individual capital funds for Penrose, 21C East and just Capital Reserve district wide are all considered non-major. So they actually, the auditors do spend less time on those because of that reason and the materiality of those dollars to the general fund. They just don't spend as much time on it. And they don't need to. So on page 74, it basically goes into the different funds that are in the non-major governmental funds, the special revenue fund. That's actually we don't use those for accounting standards, but we did have revenue expenditures in there that have been budgeted years ago that we basically have to spend down to zero before I can collapse them totally. The majority of the dollars in these funds is with those 4 capital funds I mentioned a few minutes ago. And the resolution for the 23 supplemental budget adjustment that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes too, basically addresses some deficit balances that we had at the end of the year. So it's in our financial record and this would adjust that. But there were things throughout this resolution that I wanted to bring up and talk about so you're informed about it. So when you're reading it, you can say, yes, I was informed because that's the way I wrote it. So on page 75, it basically shows the consolidated capital projects fund. And that's what we were able to do at this point in time. When we get to the final, it will break them out. Like you see on page 77 and 78. And break them out like, so you'll see each of the individual funds with a consolidated total. This is only actual information. And so when we go through the resolution, if you approve that, then the budget transfers that I'm asking to be made on that will allow us to populate comparison statements, like comparison to last year's numbers and comparison to the budget. And that would then be included in the final report. So I'd mentioned that the reason why we're having to do these budget transfers is because in the budget process for 2023, you were presented with a consolidated projects fund report. And I did that to make it easier for you to kind of analyze and review what projects are being done by who, where. And so the fund balance delineation between the different buildings and overall aren't split out on that report. the total of the report and the fund balance, ending fund balance obviously equals all the different pieces. But we ended up finding yesterday that the individual funds, there was a couple of them that had gone negative on the budget comparison. The total's zero. So basically I figured out pretty quickly, budget transfer should have been done when we did the January supplemental budget to realign those so that the zero that's at the end is represented across each of those funds. So it's basically moving funds from where it's not being used to where it had been used and doing it on all four funds separately, which isn't basically how I've been looking at this every month. So it kind of, with some of the schedules that we have to do for the audit package, it kind of popped out really quick. And so that's when I started thinking about, well, we're going to have to address this tomorrow so I can finish the audit. The reason why we can't have a negative, a deficit fund balance on any fund, but capital ones is what we're talking about, is Colorado budget law prohibits that. And, you know, it makes sense because you wouldn't want a bunch of governmental, you know, budgeting, you know, red on a budget, and then of course you're spending to your budget, so you're basically telling yourself to overspend. So that wasn't the intention of that. It just ended up being that way before we got an adjustment, and that's what this is for. I'm just looking down through here and saying the things that I informed you of before you read this. So there was two funds that had negative balances on them, and two of them that had positive. And so Penrose was 176,619 in the black. East was $30,991 in the black. Library 21C was 56,127 negative, and capital reserve was 151,483 negative. You add all those up, it comes to zero. So basically my request is I need to move positive numbers from branches that don't really need it to get to zero and move that over to the other two. None of them are the same number, but in the end, it's basically a $207,000 transfer in and out. And the whole thing drives back to zero, which is where the consolidated report was at. There, obviously, in what I'm saying here, there's no financial impact to the district. There's no financial impact to the capital accounts. It's basically getting us back to compliance with the Colorado budget law. So I just want to hit on this again. The non-major governmental accounts are it's basically determined off a pre-prescribed calculation that comes off a accounting standard. And you're seeing actuals only, but once if you approve this tonight, then I will have personnel and finance go ahead and post these transfers between in 23, and when that happens, I'll be able to produce the comparative statements that aren't there now that you would normally see. Did you? I know you haven't had a huge amount of time to look at the budget, and it was presented for the IA committee. Do you have any additional questions from meeting with Steve Sauer, our manager?
I don't.
He was very vocal in that, you know, he said, you know, not everybody gets an audit, get through an audit without any adjustments. So basically said that's commendable. And then of course I always want to see a clean opinion.
And that was.
And of course you do too.
And I do think that he did bring that up quite a few times.
Yeah.
You know, but it sounds to me like the audit is good because some things popped up that you needed to correct.
Yeah.
And so that's good that we have that. And I also think the program, as we're implementing it more and more
Yeah.
in finance, it's helping you, I think, streamline everything to where it makes sense to everyone.
So my plan for next year, as I sit here right now, is that I will, because this wasn't part of our original thing with the audit team, but the consultant on their side, I'm gonna contract with them to have him come in and train myself, Tim, our controller, our two senior accountants that we have, and probably even another person that would have probably some input responsibilities on that. So we're gonna have a big lift for next year. And even if I can't get the whole entire thing, get all the changes that sound like need to be done from the software side, you know, my plan is for us to generate that next year. And so I've worked with Evan all 3 years. And so I knew once he started talking about the difficulties he was having, that he'd already sprinted over to re-implementing the Word document that he has and working on, you know, how to integrate that with not Excel, but with a ACFR module. So that's the plan. And so we'll have to put together a plannings, you know, a time to have him actually come in. I don't really want to do that remote. I don't like to have him in the building. I think it's easier to ask questions and things come up, I think, a little easier. So I gotta see what his schedule looks like and work that out with Steve as far as getting something put together and getting that going. Hopefully sooner than later. I'd really like to get that in before the end of the year. And then if we need a refresher or more help, you know, we have him come in again. But
And Randy's goal is to make sure that everyone in the office has the same amount of knowledge in case anything happens to him, somebody can just keep the ball rolling. Because it's I mean, and that, I think that makes a big difference.
when you said that, I just had a thing flash on a bus.
Okay. But yeah, everybody knowing what's going on. And I commend that because that is very, very important. And I also wanted to say that Angela had some really good questions to make sure that there are more eyes on the audit than the person that comes in and presents. And those were really good questions she had. So, and she'll probably be the one that will oversee most of the finance because she has a keen eye on that. I thought she did.
And to that point, I mean, Steve actually, he spent quite a bit of time in that meeting, probably a good 15-20 minutes speaking to their internal processes and how they got layers of part QC people above him, and then our audit teams, at least, well, since Mike's been gone, we haven't seen the same people in the door for the actual audit teams and the field work. So they've changed out. We get a different manager. We've had a different manager every year, and most of the years before Mike left, we would see different faces and different people sitting in the chairs doing the field work. And of course, Steve's been with them for a while, so he has moved up the ladder and he's basically at a director level with them. So he really doesn't have his fingers in their day to day. He's managing probably 20-30 audits. And so he's very like 10,000 feet at this point. And so I didn't even talk to him very much. Kim actually handled most of the audit work, which that was commendable. This is her second year. She's had audit experience before, but yeah, she's really hit the ground running, and I wish you were here. I'd give her a big thank you. But she's got, we think, two promising people and senior accountants under her. That, we will be able to, and just, Justin, I think, has been with us for less than 6 months. And, Shannon's been with us for about 1.5 years, and 3 of those are being out with a birth of her little son. And so, they're learning a lot. They still got lots to learn. And so Kim's just getting closer and closer to delegating more and more to them, give them more responsibility. And she's telling me they really want higher level stuff to do. So of course I told her there's not a problem with that.
So are there any questions or concerns or?
Another really good job.
Yeah, really good job. And congratulations on the award.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, so we still got a week, but you know.
Yeah, to complete.
Yeah, well, yeah, to get it done, and because what I'd like to do is have it done in a week and then actually submit it to the state and GFOA before the 31st, which is actually the deadline for submitting both of those. I put that in, but I really want to have it done by the end of next week, have it done, and start working on 25 budget.
Yeah, start working on the next one. Okay, well, this is a decision item that we have, so I need someone to read the resolution, correct?
No, first you gotta do that.
Oh.
The audit first, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah, it's 2 separate items.
2 separate items. Here's my other paper. Yeah, the first one is I need to have to approve the audit, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I need to have someone make that motion, please.
I move that the Pikes Library District Board of Trustees approve the 2023 audited portion of the annual comprehensive financial report as presented.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions? If not, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of the audit as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Same sign. Hearing none. Good job. Okay, now the resolution. And I believe we have to read the resolution.
We do.
That's what I thought.
I'll
So-
volunteer. Oh, good, Julie.
Are you guys going to share?
I'm tired of hearing.
I wondered who was going to get short straw.
Are you guys going to do it?
Take one for the team.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, but someone still needs to make the, do they want to?
Do we need to make the
No,
motion?
you gotta
first?
read
No, I gotta read it
You're
first.
first.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I'm first in line. Okay, then no one
Yes.
else can jump. Okay. Resolution for the 2023 supplementary budget adjustments. A resolution authorizing budget fund transfers between the budgeted fund balances for Penrose East Library 21C and the Capital Reserve for the 2023 budget year as of December 31st, 2023 for Pikes Peak Library District, Colorado Springs, Colorado. In all cases below, the Board of Trustees was informed about and presented with information as stated below during the Wednesday, July 17th board meeting. Whereas the Board of Trustees has been presented with a consolidated capital projects fund report to improve the review process by library location for budgeting purposes, beginning with the 2023 budget cycle. And whereas the above mentioned consolidation report represents 4 distinct capital funds for Penrose East, Library 21C, and Capital Reserve, which, for financial purposes, individually represent 4 non-major governmental funds for the district, each with their individual ending fund balances. And whereas the Board of Trustees was informed that per Colorado budget law, CRS section 29-1-101, local governments are not allowed to maintain budgeted deficit ending fund balances. And whereas the Board of Trustees was informed that the purpose of the requested budget fund transfers for 2023 is to reset deficit capital budgeted funds balances currently present in the district's financial records for Library 21C and the capital fund to 0 by allocating the exact surplus funds from the Penrose and East capital funds. And whereas the budget fund transfers requested to reset all 4 capital fund ending fund balances to 0,
are shown below based on the current ending fund balances. The requested budget fund transfers in and out and the proposed ending fund balances by individual and consolidated capital fund balances. So,
I don't think you have to read that table.
I don't, oh, thank goodness. Okay. And whereas the Board of Trustees was informed that there will be no financial impact to the district as a result of the requested budget fund transfers, as the consolidated capital project funds ending fund balance is 0. And whereas the Board of Trustees was presented with a draft version of the 2023 audited portion of the district's annual comprehensive financial statements, ACFR, for 2023. And whereas the Board of Trustees was informed that consolidated and individual capital fund financial information located in subsection non-major governmental funds beginning on page 74 and ending on page 78 of said draft of the 2023 ACFR contains 2023 actuals only, but will include the customary comparative reports for prior year 2022 actuals and the 2023 budget year in the final version of the 2023 ACFR upon approval of this resolution. Now therefore, it is resolved by the Board of Trustees of Pikes Peak Library District, Colorado Springs, Colorado, that the above mentioned budget fund transfers as shown above are approved to bring the district into compliance with the stated Colorado budget law referenced above. Adopted this 17th day of July, 2024.
Good job.
Good job.
Yeah, practicing my reading.
Okay, now I need the motion.
Make a motion that the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees approve the resolution for 2023 supplemental budget adjustments as presented.
Second.
And there's motion was made to accept the supplementary budget adjustments, resolution, and seconded. We'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, it is passed. And I believe that is the end of our meeting unless somebody has something to share or say.
Got nothing.
Adjourn at 7:25.